Hey there. Good Monday morning to you. Sorry, got a little distracted there for a second. We are live talking all about money here on Money Mondays here at the Business of Apparel. And today I wanted to go through just real quick a principle that we've been working on with our client as she's been getting ready to figure out her purchase ordering cadence based on her inventory that she just bought and that she's been getting in. There's kind of a little bit of a rule that we've discovered as we've been working on a lot of different business plans for people and putting together their financial models and really helping people like understand their workflow, their timing flow, and all of that good stuff. And I'm going to throw out the number 60 to you here. I want you to remember the number 60 because there's a couple of different places in which I want you to remember that number. First of all, we've been talking a lot about margins. We talk a lot about margins, profits here at the Business of Apparel, especially on Money Mondays, and what you need to be bringing into your company when it comes in the way of a weighted bottom line margin. So like, how many units am I selling of each thing and how is that weighted against my entire company? And then also thinking about your unit margins, right? And a lot of the time we are giving you the advice that we actually want you to have a 65% product margin, especially at the unit level when you're bringing goods in to sell direct to consumer. The honest truth of that, like let's break that down just real quick before I go into the number 60 here. Number one, it can be really hard to get a 65% margin on everything. There are plenty of clients that we've worked with. There are plenty of companies that I've worked at before where hitting a 65% margin on your direct to consumer sales could be really difficult. Maybe you want to put forward like a really, really high quality product, but you don't want to sell it for a lot. Like those are decisions that you're making that ultimately affect your bottom line profit margin, right? Like if you aren't going to raise the retail price, you want to sell something for $100, but someone is selling it to you for $50, right? Like it cost you $50 to make it. You still want to sell it for 100. You're stubborn about raising that price. You're only going to make a 50% margin. Like that's as simple as it can get. So sometimes getting to that 65% can be hard. But what I will say is if you want a really healthy business and you want to be having a mix of both direct to consumer and wholesale products, your direct to consumer target and like ideal like goal that you should be hitting is 75%. Because if you could hit a 75% profit margin per unit direct to consumer, that means you can hit a 50% profit margin wholesale. So usually you sell your goods to a wholesaler, like to a boutique or to a Macy's or to a bike shop or a specialty run shop. You'll sell it to them for half of the retail price. And so you want to have a 50-50 split there. Again, we've talked about this a lot. I know if you feel like I'm a broken record, like this is just information that we are really trying to get out into your hands because it's really, really important. Okay. So if you want to be selling to a wholesaler at any point in your business, if you really like that little boutique shop down the way and you think someday you want to sell to them so that they can help you sell your goods, you really want to be aiming for that 50-50 split. That is the most fair way to work with wholesalers. It is the best way to move forward for your business. That is usually also best case scenario when it comes to wholesale. If you can get a 50% margin at wholesale, you're doing some really good stuff. Okay. So in order to hit that, the way the numbers work out, numbers don't lie, right? They're just numbers. They're not emotional. We just pump them into a calculator. If you want to hit a 50% margin on a wholesale, that means if you're selling direct for that same exact retail price, direct from your website, you're aiming for a 75% margin direct from your website or direct from your own brick and mortar, direct to that customer. Okay. So 75% is really the ideal. We like to tell you that you should be aiming for at least 65%. That leaves enough room for wholesale success, even though you're not hitting those super ideal profit numbers. Now, when we do business planning for our clients, we anticipate that they're taking our advice on these things when it comes to profit margins, right? Like we're talking about it ad nauseum to you. You can bet we're talking about it even more to our clients because we want them to be successful. And we're helping them get there through cost negotiations and looking at their line planning and looking at their retail numbers, like what is the competitor space? Can we actually raise these retail prices? All of those kinds of things go into it. But when we do our business planning, I like to do business planning and line planning and goal setting and P&Ls and projections I like to do it in a worst case scenario situation. And that might that might make me like doom and gloom. Okay, that's fine. I do also like to do pie in the sky goals. Like, so if you guys haven't heard me talk about the way that I do goals, I do like a very realistic, this is like probably what it's going to be. Then I do a pie in the sky. This is if I made so much fucking money, I wouldn't know what to do with it. And then I pull it back and I do, okay, what's a worst case scenario? So in the worst case scenario, I want you to be aiming for a 60% margin. I want you to assume that you are going to make a 60% margin minimum on every single unit that you sell. And again, that might be a stretch, especially if you look at your numbers today and find that you are not hitting that. I want you to start evaluating those numbers if you're not hitting that. But I want you to assume when you're putting together your business plan and you're placing your purchase orders and you're starting to sell inventory and you've got items up on your own website that you are going to make bare minimum a 60% profit margin when you are selling direct to consumer. So there's your 60. That's the first 60 that I want you to remember, okay? So if you're bringing in a 60% profit margin on every single unit that you sell, and you placed a purchase order, let's say for 1,000 units of anything. Let's say you bought 10 different styles, so you bought 100 of each, you have 1,000 units that's coming to you, it's coming to your warehouse, coming to your 3PL, however you choose to do it, right? So you've got 1,000 units coming to you. You're making a 60% margin on each unit that you sell. When are you supposed to place your next purchase order? This is like a big riddle. This is something that we've been playing with for a really long time. When should you place your next purchase order? When is the right time for me to bring in more inventory so that there's not too much sitting on my books, there's not too much collecting dust at my warehouse, and I can keep things moving, right? I've got newness coming in. Maybe I've got new colorways coming in the next purchase order. When is that time? That is also a 60. Once you have sold through 60% of your units, so in this scenario, if you have 1,000 units, once you've sold through 600 units, we want you to place your next purchase order. That will give you time to sell through the remaining 40% of your inventory while production is happening. And then when you get your next purchase order, then you kind of reset the clock. You kind of reset that percentage point, right? Here's the thing. If you don't do this, especially if you are just starting out, let's say you just placed your very first purchase order, there's a lot that you don't know yet. There is a lot of data that you need to collect on every single item that you have just brought into your inventory. And if you rush to place more inventory without giving yourself the time to sell through 60% of it, that 2/3, if you haven't sold through that 2/3 of it, you probably don't have enough information to know what to buy next time. So that is point number one. We don't want you to go ahead and buy more inventory until you know what to buy. What if you start getting a ton of information from your customers? They are leaving you a bazillion reviews telling you that the elastic on your waistband is way too tight. It has to be fixed. Everybody's returning items. Everybody's returning all of their units. They're buying it, giving you the same feedback over and over and over again. The elastic on your waistband is way too tight. I can't wear this piece, returning it. If that's the case, and you hadn't have waited for all that feedback to come in by selling through the amount of units that we recommend, and you went ahead and placed another inventory purchase order without making that waistband elastic change, now you have another, 1,000 units on your hands that people aren't going to keep. They're going to keep returning them. What a waste of money. That is a waste of money. Don't do that. I want you to take your time, talk to your customers, send out surveys, ask for reviews. If you have their email, send them a personal note, ask them what they think about your garment. Get as much feedback as you possibly can to know that once you've sold through that 60% of your inventory, you know if there's something that needs to be fixed. You know if you've got the best fucking product on the planet. You know, maybe your size breaks are also going to give you a ton of information there, right? Like, I sold through all of my mediums super, super fast, but I haven't sold a single extra small. That is also going to give you information on how to break out your next purchase order in the most intelligent way. So I want you to wait until you've sold through 60%. The other reason I want you to wait until you've sold through 60% is because you need more money coming in before you can send more money out. If you want your company to be bootstrapped, if you don't want to be getting business loans every other month, if you don't want to be relying on investors or people to come in and tell you how to run your business because you want to own it, you want to be the owner, you have to bring in enough money first before you send any more money out. And this is why our budgeting pie charts and our ebook on a sustainable apparel brand includes all the numbers that you need to understand how to always stay in the black by placing a purchase order and then making enough back before you place your next one. That is the whole purpose of those resources for you guys, so that you can see exactly how much you need to pull into your company before you start spending more on more inventory. Now, those resources also include spots for you to dictate, like, what am I spending on team? What am I spending on taxes? What am I spending on subscriptions and business expenses and my Shopify subscription, all of those kinds of things. It includes all of that, right? I don't expect you to only ever be buying inventory and not paying yourself and being a one-woman show forever, right? That can't be the case. So those resources are built to help you understand how all of that works. But 60 is the number I want you to remember. 60 should be your worst case scenario profit margin per unit that you're bringing in. I really want you to aim higher. I want you to be anywhere between 65 and 75. 75 is the gold standard. If you're above 75, good Lord, you're doing amazing things. And you could probably actually lower your retail prices and make your customers really, really happy. So there's that. And then 60%, I want you to have sold through 60% of your current inventory before you consider making your next purchase order, so that you only have 40% of your inventory to have to sell through before your next batch of inventory comes in. So if you have any questions on this and you think that maybe I'm crazy, maybe you think that I'm nuts, like you've been placing purchase orders every 6 months on the dot, it doesn't matter if I've sold through 60%. You know what? The thing about that is you get yourself in trouble when you start to do that. You get these standards inside your head. We had a client on our books a long time ago who he really felt like every 6 months he just needed to be placing that next purchase order regardless of how he was selling through items, because he was like, he felt beholden to these industry standards. You know, I place a spring purchase order, then I place a fall purchase order, then I place my next spring purchase order, then I place my next fall purchase order. And don't get me wrong, that is 100% how the big billion-dollar brands do it. They set standards and they place purchase orders either every month, every 3 months, or every 6 months. And that is standard for how the big brands do it. But are you making billions and billions of dollars yet? If the answer to that question is no, if you don't have a B at the beginning of your gross revenue income, we should maybe talk about you pulling back on that and doing what's actually realistic and right for your company, and stop following like what Nike's doing. I can teach you all day long what Nike's doing. I used to sit inside the walls of big companies like that, and I know what it looks like. But you're not there yet. And if you are, this maybe isn't the right thing for you, right? Like maybe I'm revealing all of your secrets and you fucking hate me. But this is definitely something that if you are not there yet, you need to start recognizing what's right for you and your company. And industry standard timelines might need to be judged just a little bit to make sure that you are always in the black, never in the red. You're always in good standing monetarily with your company. Okay, if this video is helpful to you, please share it with somebody. Leave me comments below. We always love to talk to our community. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Monday for more money talk.